I want to thank you for joining us this evening. We are doing, of course, Bible study as we do every Monday night. Now, the last few weeks we have been MIA, and we apologize for these discrepancies. We have been uh, taking care of some business, and the first week we missed, we were a little under the weather, so we thank you for being patient with us. Our tutor tonight, Brother Ken, has fallen under the weather himself, so he won't be joining us this evening. We will try to have men of valor and see if we can have it. If we can, we will. If not, then we'll resume next week. We want to invite you not only to our Bible study on Monday nights, but our morning prayer. We have morning prayer every morning at 7 a.m. on this same link. You can dial in. Same way you get into our Bible study, you can get into our morning prayer at 7 a.m. for a moment to begin your day with calling out to God. I want to invite you to Women of Faith, which is every Saturday at 3 p.m. Then our Sunday services at 11 a.m. On Sunday, we live stream on Facebook and YouTube. Tonight's lesson is dated January 30th, entitled The Dilemma of Obedience. Of course, we know a dilemma means that you have a problem that you can't really seem to solve. And it was written by Oswald Chambers. Taken from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 3, verse 15, says, Then Samuel feared to show Eli the vision. Of course, we know Samuel uh, and Samuel was a prophet of God. We know that this is God's communication device to man through his prophets. In the Old Testament, the prophets spoke not only of God's desire for the people, but he also told them how they should operate given a period of time. God never speaks to us in startling ways, but in ways that are easy to misunderstand, subtle, still, small voice, not overt, not in your face. He doesn't hit you over the head with a hammer. You know, um, our desire to serve God gives us. I'm sorry, I'm wiping my face. I apologize about that. Let me wipe my eyes real quick. my my understanding of this is, of course, we have the prophet sing a vision. that concerned Eli. God uses his prophets to convey to his people the direction they should go. But we then have prophets in this day and age. But we understand the duty of the prophet is to speak for God on or in behalf of a situation. Now, but it says that our we hear this message from God now, mostly without the prophet. God speaks to us in our heart. And because God speaks to us in our heart, we then must walk lightly in the purpose that we have with God. With a strong hand, God does not speak, but with a light voice. Nothing touches our lives, but it is God Himself speaking. Do we discern His hand or only mere occurrence? Get into the habit of saying, "Speak, Lord," and I will become a romance. Every time circumstances press, say, "Speak, Lord." Speak, Lord. I hear what Oswald is saying. When you find yourself in trouble, say, "Speak, Lord." When you find yourself in circumstances that are challenging, say, "Speak, Lord," because we said most of us will not encounter the prophet. So we must now hear from God directly. And until you hear from God, you should say, "Speak, Lord." The beauty of God using you to say, "Speak, Lord," is that God is solidifying your learning of Him. Every time circumstances press, say, "Speak, Lord." Make time. Now, once you pray and you talk to God about this, for lack of a better way of saying it, hellish situation that we find ourselves in on planet Earth, you can have someone walk your dog, but when God, when we do this, we need to understand that they walk our dog for us. They are doing this on our behalf. And then we must hear from them to say that this process is over. We can't make assumptions. So Just like that, we hear from God and say, "Speak, Lord." Chastening is more than a means of discipline that God does when we can't deal with, but in the spiritual realm, we cannot deal with other people's issues. We must deal with our own. We can't turn the responsibility of hearing from God over to someone else. Have you forgotten what he said? Have you forgotten what God has said? God speaks to us. Was it Luke 11:13 or was it First Thessalonians 5:23? As we listen, our ears get acute. Like Jesus, we shall hear God all the time. Shall I tell my Eli what God has shown to me? The one that I am spiritually responsible for. That is where the dilemma of obedience comes in. We obey God with by becoming amateur providences. I must shield Eli, the best people we know. God did not tell Samuel to say, or did not, God did not tell Samuel to tell Eli, but he had to decide what side he was on. Listen, you can do all of the work you want, but when you do it for God, you are exposing yourself that you are for God. You are with God. That you are about God. And there verse so what let's look. First Samuel chapter 3 verse 15 says, "For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth, because his sons made themselves vow, and he restrained them not." Now, Samuel's sons, we may have read this before, that they were they were undercutting Samuel's position of authority. Samuel was getting old, he put his sons in charge, and his sons did evil because they did not follow the same level of esteem as their father did. And therefore I have sworn unto the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice, nor offerings forever. And Samuel lay until the morning and opened the doors of the house of the Lord. Now, Samuel lay until the morning and opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel feared to show Eli the vision. Now, we must understand that if God gave Samuel the vision for Eli, Samuel should not resist it. I haven't gotten that far in the text to say that he's wrong. I'm just saying, if God gives you a vision, now this is delicate situation because some people don't have a vision for anybody, but they want to look like they have a vision. So they'll make up one. And we're talking about those who have really seen the voice of God in their lives move forward. I'm saying that if God is speaking through you, you ought to speak for the Lord. If he's speaking through you, there is no reservation or uh, delicate way of putting it. It's best to go. Then Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. He answered, Here am I. Verse 17. And he said, What is the thing that God hath shown you? And he said, What is the thing that the Lord hath said unto thee? I pray thee, hide it not from me. God do so to thee, and more also, if thou hide anything from me, and all the things that he said unto thee. God is speaking, and we don't reserve anything for ourselves or decide what should be said, but we speak on behalf of God. And if we can accomplish this, then we must follow through with what God is telling us to do. That's why some of you need to get into prayer. Ask God, what would you have me to do? Get into God, the presence of God, and call out to God. God is doing something. And if we miss God, God called God's call to you may hurt your Eli. But if you try to prevent the suffering in another life, it will prove an obstruction between your soul and God. So we must speak what God has told us to speak. And then we will see the handiwork of God moving in our life, but then also all of those who are called to Him, speaking for Him. God is working in you, to you, and through you.